Hello, my name is Richard Corbett from emergebydesign.net, and welcome to my weekly transit report called the Celestial Compass. Each week, I will be taking a look at the planetary transits from a human design body graph perspective, focusing in on the gates and the archetypes of the planetary activations, looking at the structural integrity of the hexagram in which they reside. And then we also will be taking a look at the astrological conversations that these planets were having with each other at the time of these activations in the body graph, looking at the astrological frequency, the condition of the planets while those activations were taking place. So thank you for joining me. And I say all that too, because as we look at the week ahead, and this week I'll be looking at Monday, July 14th through Sunday, July 20th, we're going to be having our third quarter lunation this week. And so as we look at the body graph, we're looking at the body graph through the lens of the emotional quality of the moon. We're in a waning phase now. So I want to say a couple things about this particular lunar cycle, this emotional chapter in our year. So we started with a new moon in Cancer. Now, this is the once of the month year where we get to have the moon have her lunation in her home sign. So it's always a very strong lunar cycle with a new moon in Cancer. We also had Jupiter conjunct that new moon, and Mercury was also in the sign of Cancer. So we knew going into this lunar month that we was going to be an emotional month. We were going to be focused on all things Cancerian, our inner emotional world, our inner emotional security, family, friends, family of origin. All of these things were part of the thematic this month. And then from there, we moved into our first quarter moon, which took place in Libra. Libra is the sign of relationships, other people, filled with diplomacy, altercations, a little bit of everything. But we were moving at that period of the first quarter through the waxing phase, the growing illumination, growing emotional energy, building some sort of structure. And then last week, it culminated with a full moon in Capricorn, the Saturnian sign of structures that present our outward expression. And so we could really feel the polarity of Cancer and Capricorn this month, how we build inner security and emotional tranquility, and how that is sometimes in a polarity opposition to Capricorn, which is the structures that we live in, the outward expression, thinking about how that's associated with 10th house outer expression, and finding the balance between that or lack of balance, right? And so as we move into this week and we're moving into the waning phase with the moon decreasing in illumination each day, heading back towards to another home, another new moon, we are in a point of reflection and transition. And if we weren't feeling the balance between inner emotional world and outer emotional expression, this is the part of the phase or the cycle when we can take agency or action, always following personal authority from your natal human design body graph. But it is a flavor of period in the phase where we can take action to resolve what took place in the first half of the lunar month. If there were challenges, altercations of how this structure that we've been living in or building together is not congruent or authentic with our inner world, now is a time that we can bring some type of resolution or progress and integration to that polarity. So let's go ahead and take a look at the day by day this week, because we'll get to see how the current daily transits are supporting this overall lunar theme this month. So while I pull the chart up, just want to thank you all so much for joining me. Always appreciate you having being part of this channel. If you're getting support, I always appreciate the likes and the subscribes. You guys know how the YouTube world works. We appreciate the opportunity to grow our channel here at emergebydesign.net. So as we look at these charts, they're all run for noon Mountain Time, except for the lunation on the third quarter moon, and I'll indicate the time of that particular chart. Otherwise, they're all set for noon Mountain Time. Also, they're all set for 0 degrees Aries. And as we start Monday at this noontime chart, we see so as we look at these, we see the sun down here in Cancer, currently still traveling through gate 62, where it's been for a couple of days, putting the Earth in its opposition and polarity in Capricorn in gate 61. Now, gate 62 in the body graph is part of our logical circuit group. It's a gate of expression, logical expression. It's about the details, we call it. Being able to look at things associated with health, wellness, sustainability, the patterns that we live in, and to be able to express that in an organized way. Now, there's a lot happening up here as we look at the body graph. We have a defined head and ajna center. And I talked about this channel of abstraction last week, and it's still in effect as we roll into the first couple of days of this week. And that's because Mars traveling through Virgo is in gate 64, and the South Node is still in gate 47, again, called the channel of abstraction, a design of mental activity and clarity. Now, this channel itself archetypally is associated with the emotional experience of life, all of our growth and development. It's very associated with looking back at the past. Now, gate 47 is where the South Node is. The South Node also has this thematic of things in the rearview mirror, things from our past. So having Mars in 64, Mars bringing that energy, the planet of action, forward movement. Mars always bringing energy to the gate that it's in, and here it's in the gate of confusion, really pressuring us mentally to go back and look at the past. So we still have this frequency in the background. And I think it's something to keep in mind as we start the week, that as this is a very, all channels and all gates in the body graph are so valuable, of course. It's just that this one really can get a hold of us mentally. You know, we can really find ourselves getting caught in the mental loop of going over and over. And I think it's a helpful thing to be aware of, to just recognize that if we get that sense of mental anxiety, to recognize what's happening, to turn that perception into appreciation, right? Our mind is hard at work right now, trying to really figure this out. It's a big lunation this particular month that I was describing earlier, and to know that our mind is going to be thinking about those things. We also, as I mentioned, have the Earth in gate 61, another mental pressure gate of inner truth, the gate of mystery. And so we're really thinking about what's happening in this crazy planet that we're living in, and what's happening to me as a result of that. And that's a really big, important thematic in the chart as well. And as I say that, I just want to point out that we're really starting to see this minor triangle. I've been talking about it for a while now. We have Saturn and Neptune that almost reached their exact conjunction, but just came within a quarter of a degree, and they both turned retrograde in the past couple of weeks. So they're traveling together forward and backward in gate 25, the gate of innocence, the gate of the spirit of the higher self. It's individual gate of initiation into mutation. We are undergoing tremendous change in the world, and that is, of course, also happening at the individual level right now. And I just wanted to point out that minor triangle between gate 25, Saturn-Neptune conjunction, and a sextile to Pluto in gate 41, and a sextile in the other direction to Uranus, who has recently not only moved into Gemini, but also into gate 20. The gate of what we call the gate of the now, existentialism, another individual voice. So as these outer planets move into this minor triangle, which it's going to fade away due to the retrograde, and it's going to sort of, this aspect of this triangle is sort of coming and going, if you will. With all these outer planets, Uranus will very soon go into retrograde on September 6th. This triangle will sort of go away, but then it comes back very strong as we move into 2026. And that's when Neptune and Saturn, who will have gone back into Pisces, come back forward into Aries in gate 25. And we're going to get a much stronger taste of what this collective movement of this very interesting aspect that I continue to talk about, because, well, I find a lot of hope in it. Something grand is in the works, as chaotic and polarized as things seem right now, but yet we're getting an inkling. And that's why I think that what's happening right now is like a preview into what's coming in 26, 27. And that's why I think our individual actions of authenticity and integrity are really planting the seeds for personal mutation as we move into the rest of this year and early next year. So that's just a short soundbite on the larger auditory planetary collective energy right now. And so we can look at this current aspects and how that's affecting us individually. And again, it's very oriented to our sense of gate 25. As I look at all of these aspects, when I look at what I say is the real fulcrum, the foundation of the whole story, it's in gate 25 with Saturn, the taskmaster, the planet of discipline, discernment, responsibility. How are we dealing with our sense of innocence, as well as Neptune, beyond the boundaries of Saturn, the planet of limitlessness, creativity, imagination, also delusion, right? All of these planets have a spectrum, but such a dynamic conjunction in this gate 25. And of course, we're in the retrograde phases of those two planets, but we're going to get a lot of life experience inviting us in this particular channel of initiation. How are we discovering life? Are we taking it from a stance where there's preconditions that must be met for my external happiness in a way, or are we able to cultivate acceptance and forgiveness and mutation, which leads to life without preconditions and the potential freedom of creative expression that can foster? And so all of these sort of part of the storyline here, but getting a sense of that minor triangle. Now, the moon herself in this waning phase, just 2.5 days away from the third quarter, is traveling through Pisces, this very emotional, watery world of Pisces, of the dream world. And it's going to be trining the sign of Cancer, where we had the new moon and the sun was still there, and we have Jupiter. So we'll see some trines to there. The moon is in a just past a trine to Jupiter already, but also forming a square to Venus in her home sign of Taurus. And so I think we're going to feel, the bits of friction, right? Dealing with the overall lunar thematic of inner world and personal emotional security and the outer structures in which we live in. How are we dealing with the day-to-day interactions with other people? And yeah, it's going to feel, there are a few bumps in the road, so to speak, that week. And I will be looking at those bumps in the road as opportunities. So when I might feel myself and my body have any sense of dysregulation, amped up, anxiety, physical pressure, to use that as a reminder, as an indicator to stop, to breathe, to have presence, and be curious about the world is what it's showing me or inviting me into my own sense of healing and development. As I say all that, I always want to remind everyone to check out our webpage at emergebydesign.net, where Brandy has been posting and sharing also on YouTube some incredible embodiment tools of support right now. And our bodies can really use it as we're still feeling this Cancerian inner nature world that we're living in right now. So yeah, a lot of mental pressure in terms of starting out the week, but again, appreciating what that's offering us. We are in the waning phase. Wonderful time for reflection and review right now as we head through the week. So let's go ahead and we'll move it into Tuesday, July 15th. And on Tuesday, we'll see in the body graph that the transiting moon, who's at the end of the sign of Pisces right now, at this noontime chart, has moved into gate 36. So this is a 5 or 6 hour period. So it's a fast moving transit, but it's for the larger portion of the middle of the day, the moon in 36, and Venus has moved into gate 35 in Gemini. So for Tuesday, we're going to get the channel of transitoriness. Now, both that channel and that channel of abstraction that I was speaking towards, again, are very oriented to us thinking about our experiences of the past. What led us to this moment? And we can go back as far as we need to. We're going to be talking about Chiron at the third quarter moon. So right away, I'm thinking about, challenges we've had, limitations from our past, all the way from family of origin to developmental years and career, work, relationships. All of these may be bubbling to the surface as we close out the rest of this lunar cycle. And what's going to happen, one thing else I want to mention on this, a little bit of an irritation, I guess I just wanted to say, but an irritation which is an invitation. I really want to share it, that I don't see these as bad things at all. They're simply awareness available to us through these transits of where we're being impacted by this energy. But Venus, as I mentioned, in that gate 36, is going to be forming a half square here with Chiron, also in Aries. And Chiron, although it doesn't get an activation in the software for the body graph, Chiron's currently in gate 3, line 1, which is down here and part of the channel of mutation, which is also part of the same individual circuit group as Saturn and Neptune in gate 25. And so part of this cycle of the moon has to do at the third quarter moon, which we'll get to on Thursday, with Chiron in gate 3. And so with Venus forming a half square right here, there's something irritating coming from our Venusian world, again, from our desires, our feelings about other people and what we want. Something's getting a bit of an abrasion here. But the idea right now in this third quarter moon is, how do we work with that? How do we integrate that, or also possibly let something go? I always say that the third quarter moon is the most potent time to tend to the garden of our inner soul work. And so that's part of what could be happening here while the moon is at the end of Pisces. Now, what we're not going to see in my chart, because I'm going to go to Wednesday now, but I want to indicate it before we go to that chart, is that over the evening hours, the moon is going to move through her conjunction with both Saturn and then Neptune in gate 25. And I think that because I find gate 25 to be the fulcrum of the story for the rest of the year, I think that every time the moon comes and makes a conjunction with gate 25, we're getting some type of a portal, some ability to emotionally connect with our own gate 25 healing process. This is also called the gate of wounding. Life comes at us. It provides shocking initiations to where we have the chance to move into our sense of higher self. That is basically the archetype of the channel of initiation, and why this gate 25 transit for the world is so important right now. And I think each month when the moon comes back to there, so here on Tuesday night, July 15th, this is a good time to note on the calendar, what was I feeling that night? What did the moon bring me in her waning phase lunation of tending to the garden of my soul, that I could learn about forgiveness for myself or others or the planet, and to move into a state of innocence, a life without preconditions, where we live purely with 1000% honesty and integrity of our higher self. And this is what I see in the charts right now, and very impactful this week. So let's go ahead and we'll move into Wednesday. Okay, here's Wednesday. And as I was mentioning there, here's the moon. She already by noon has moved past that conjunction with gate 25, and we find her in gate 17, the gate of opinions. And with the sun still in gate 62, for the day on Wednesday, we are going to get the channel of acceptance, the design of an organizational being. And here we have the ajna, the center of conceptualizing and mental analyzing, wanting to express opinions in a very logical, oriented way. But yet we can look at the frequency of the moon at the time of being in gate 17, and the moon is in a square to Jupiter in Cancer on Wednesday, and Jupiter is in gate 52. Now, this is in the same circuit group, this expansive energy in Jupiter in gate 52, the mountain, keeping still, finding the logical, health-oriented pattern to improvement. We are feeling the square here, the moon and her emotional quality meeting up with Jupiter, in the sense that, our opinions, something's got to change here, right? Our sense of logic, based on where we've been, the experiences we've gone through this lunar cycle, there's a movement here of an invitation to change the logic. What we deemed logical before, for us to go through our own personal mutation of emotional growth and development, our sense of logic will be altered. What we find to be our stability of gate 52 in our logical framework, there's an emotional movement here. I can't help but think of the word mutation. We're really feeling that chironic mutation with all of this energy in Aries, Saturn, Neptune, gate 25, the moon here currently in 17, and Chiron in that gate 3, just so much Aryan energy as we're closing out this Cancer Capricorn lunar cycle. How are we able to alchemize what we've been through to, again, tend to that inner emotional world so that we can alter the logic of our outward expression? And I feel like that's part of this closing thematic we'll be moving through as we go towards our next new moon. But in the meantime, let's take a look at this third quarter moon. So this is taking place on Thursday, July 17th at 6:37 p.m. Mountain Time. And as we look at the chart, we see the third quarter moon here with the moon herself in gate 42, line 6, squaring up with the sun in gate 62, line 6. Well, a line 6 third quarter moon is bringing a frequency of integrity, truth, role model, wisdom, right? It is a spectrum. The other end of that is hypocrisy. This is where this alchemization and mutation, we may have disassociated with that or reverted back to our shadow nature and are acting or reacting out unconsciously and inauthentically. All of, this is not predictive here. This can go, there's many ways this can go, but I like to look at it from an evolutionary perspective. And what we're seeing here at this third quarter moon is the moon herself saying, nurturing. This is the line 6 of gate 42. It's the natural ability to evolve and nurture ourselves and others through growth and development. And it's conjunct Chiron. And this is why I mentioned earlier that Chiron was very much a part of the close of this lunar cycle. Chiron in that gate 3, which is the gate of ordering and the channel of mutation. This can be cathartic work, right? When we're dealing with gate 3, the life force energy ability to respond, to mutate. This is deep cellular change. And the moon, very close in this 2-degree conjunction, is saying, yeah, that it's part of growth. It's part of evolution that we can do these changes. It will affect our how we think about things. Our story is changing. Our mental sense of logic, which has been under pressure. I did want to mention, I missed it yesterday on the chart, but Mars moved out of that gate 64 and moved into gate 47. So about to form a conjunction with the South Node. This is a very interesting channel because the channel of abstraction, the two gates, the 47 and the 64 that form that channel, are next door to each other. So as the Mars moved forward through gate 64, the very next gate is 47. And so again, this mental activity this week is very strong. And I think it's supportive that we don't get out in front of ourselves with the mental gyrations, that we use all this mental activity to invite integration, to invite the embodiment. What does my body, my innate wisdom have to say about the mental activity, and rather than the other way around, if that makes sense. Sort of keeping our mind in its place and its productive role, which is to inform our body, and the body will inform our innate intelligence and, of course, stimulate our inner authority or personal authority. But what I want to mention here is we have this healing story at the third quarter moon. The moon conjunct Chiron, squaring off to the sun in the final hard, last Ptolemaic aspect anyway. There'll be a half square, but this is the last quarter square. So it's dynamic. Again, there is a potential to take agency, to resolve, to reflect, to remove, to make changes, to integrate the polarity of our nature of Cancer and Capricorn that's been the theme this month. But there's another very stimulating aspect going on, which is that Mars closing in a conjunction to the South Node is in a 1.5 to Pluto. Now, whenever Mars and Pluto get into a hard aspect, it can feel pretty irritating. There's just no getting around it. These are powerful planets. Mars, the god of war and personal energy, being pushed forward, meeting up in a frictional frequency with the Lord of the underworld, the shadow world, the pieces of ourselves that we push down under the carpet. And so may come through, this transit may come through other people or altercations or irritations, but to remember with this awareness that it's asking us to go deep within ourselves. Pluto retrograde in gate 41 is we are reviewing how we're going to embark on this fundamental new experiential cycle that we're all going through collectively together. And so a stimulation from Mars square and a half Pluto right now could be from a reactive notion where we just launch out, not following authority, just reacting emotionally to external altercation. Whereas the chart here is saying, no, this is stimulation to go inward, to look at gate 25. What is our sense of innocence? Selflessness is line 1 of gate 25. Are we feeling our selflessness in this? When we're living out authentic 9-centered relationships, I'm thinking about, we're moving into a space where no one's out to get us, right? We are responsible for our own emotional integrity, and we can hold space for others and also ask ourselves these questions. How am I evolving? Why am I feeling dysregulated or stimulated? How can I find personal healing that will mutate the situation I'm in? And so I just really wanted to bring up that this Mars-Pluto configuration at the third quarter lunation, it's pretty challenging frequency, but there's such a supportive healing quality with Chiron in gate 3 saying, yes, but this is a personal mutation. It may look very external, but it's internal what's going on right here, according to the thematics of the chart right here. And at the same time, we have Mercury. I want to mention Mercury because Mercury has slowed down. And in fact, you'll see in tomorrow on Friday's chart, Mercury will have turned retrograde. So Mercury is moving to that standstill at this third quarter moon and is sextile to Venus. Well, Mercury is in gate 7 and Venus is still in that gate 35. And so Mercury in Leo is speaking about the creative expression of our identity, our ego, the sign of Leo, in gate 7. Now, in the retrograde, Mercury will go back through early gate 7, all the way back through gate 33, and go back into gate 31 and turn forward in August. I don't have the date until August 11th. I think Mercury will turn forward. So we're going to get almost a month-long period where it's going to be a very healthy time to continue to review our past experiences. But that sextile between Mercury and Venus, these personal planets being in a communicative, supportive aspect at the time of this somewhat challenging third quarter moon, is really indicating that there's possibilities in this Chironic work, that through communication and aligning with our Venusian values and having our own sense of personal integrity with our personal mutative process, right, we have the winds at our back. Right. So just trying to look at all of the spectrum here and the possibilities, but a tremendously supportive lunation for some sort of healing quality into the balancing of the polarity between our inner world and our external world, and what action and agency we can take to create that inner balance and external balance. All right. So that's the third quarter moon. Let's go ahead. We'll move it into Friday here. On Friday, we can see the sun in the last line 6 of gate 62. And wanted to mention again that Mercury will be retrograde as of Friday, July 18th. So we'll be talking about Mercury retrograde over the next few weeks that are taking place there. And then I also mentioned that Mercury sextile Venus. So pretty much covered all that I wanted to indicate about Friday. Let's go ahead and move to Saturday. Now, just due to the timing of the noontime chart, the sun has already moved into gate 56, line 2. We didn't get to see the sun in line 1. It would have been there in the evening hours last night, but already into line 2 as of noon. Now, gate 56 in Cancer, this is the gate of stimulation. This is the storytelling. This is the verbal expression of our solar plexus emotional growth and development. Well, I've spent a lot of time talking about personal mutation in these individual channels. And I think as we're moving into the final week now of this waning phase with the life force energy of the sun in gate 56, this is a wonderful time to listen to our communication, to listen to our stories and how they're relating to that chironic journey he's making in gate 3. How are we telling that story? Is it from a place of a sense of self-empowerment and authenticity, or are we sharing it from a victim state? The other end of that polarity or that spectrum is we could feel the victim, they were out to get us. They did this to me, and there's no shame in that. It's just a matter of recognition. Listening to what's coming out can be an indicator now. Let me look a little further into that. Why am I still feeling the pain of that? What's the zing there? And where do we go with that questioning? Back to gate 25, Saturn and Neptune. How are we dealing with these very strong forces at work on our individual activations right now? I find it to be super fascinating and exciting, but also, of course, can be deeply troubling, because we're really having to, if we want, we are really offering the opportunity here to really do some inner work that can have profound effects as we move into the next few years. But it takes some real embodiment. It takes some real self-nourishing. And so thinking about that moon, as I mentioned earlier, at the third quarter was in gate 42, line 6, the line of nurturing. And I think self-nourishment right now, a very important element and ingredient. And with Venus in Gemini, Venus wants to go out and be active. There's a lot of communication going on right here. Venus currently in that gate 35, wanting to talk about progress, but also holding strong to our presence in the moment right now can be deeply facilitating to this mutative chironic work that the chart is indicating that we're all going through right now. Also, the moon, as of Saturday, will be forming a trine with that Mars and South Node in that gate 47. And so with the moon in an individual gate 23 of assimilation, somehow all that mental ruminations of the week have a moment of reflection from the waning phase into a voice of assimilation. My personal structuring is under mutation, and the moon is wanting to share that right now. What we've learned about the past and how we're changing our perception. And most importantly, I think, is again, this idea of gate 56. Changing the story, that our stories are always evolving, and it's very connected to the earth and the polarity of gate 56 and in gate 60, the limitation, right? Back in this channel of mutation. As I'm drawing a circle around this channel, gate 60 and gate 3, again, reminding us that Chiron in the software does not get an activation, but in the transit field, we have Chiron in gate 3 and the earth in gate 60. And so it's bringing us into this embodied opportunity to mutate into our new voice of authentic truth, inspiration, and expression. And so, yeah, I think as we're moving out or towards the end of this lunar cycle, started in Cancer, first quarter Libra, full moon Capricorn, Aries third quarter, how am I, this new form, having the support of Saturn and Neptune in gate 25 through this chironic healing journey and mutation? Yeah, this has been a powerful emotional month and a wonderful time right now to really, hold ourselves, collect ourselves, think about and appreciate, find the gratitude right now of where we've gone through as we'll work our way over the next coming week. We'll move into a new moon in Leo. But Earth in gate 60, this idea of it's limitations. Every life is presented significant limitations, which are our invitations and opportunities to grow and evolve into our own sense of self-empowerment. And that is a really strong message, I think, in these charts this week. Still dealing with, I didn't mention this yet, but with the sun here and that gate 56 line 2 has moved into a square to that Chiron, right? So we get a few days here with the moon conjunct Chiron and the other luminary, the life force energy of the sun squaring that Chiron. Yeah, it's dredging things up. And again, I am encouraging myself to remember that that's an opportunity. It's not a problem, it's an opportunity to grow. And so to really take this time of the waning phase to reflect, to review, to contemplate, to hold space for my emotions, to see what my body is telling me, what actions, what is the next step in the journey of authenticity. And I think a lot of support, even with the sun really applying pressure to our chironic journey right now, tremendous week of healing as we will move through the closing days of this lunar cycle. And just to take a quick look at Sunday, the moon in the morning hours will be conjunct to Uranus in gate 20 at this noontime chart. The moon is in line 5, Uranus line 1. So this conjunction would have taken earlier in the morning. And I think that when I was talking about this minor triangle between Pluto, sextile Neptune, Saturn, which is sextile Uranus, this minor triangle, which is really a big part of the collective story and where we're going over the next couple of years as this aspect comes and goes very strongly. Every time the moon touches on one of those planets, there's something really important. So I will be watching this very closely in my reports is these conjunctions. So here with the moon in gate 20, I've talked a lot about individual, personal, mutative, and cathartic healing of authentic expression. Well, with the moon touching on Uranus and its innovative quality, its forward thinking and revolutionary frequency of gate 20, what is my voice now? This is, again, a voice of individual truth. How has my story of gate 56, where the sun is, how has that evolved through my emotional experiences of the solar plexus? And what is my individual gate 20, my unique expression of empowerment right now? And if we hear things that are agitating to our body, again, only nothing more than an opportunity to reflect on that. We have the lunar strength of reflection moving into her darker phase to go into the dark, to go into the shadow, into our past, to unearth the plutonic truths that we need to move forward into the new world that we're all heading into, which is a very interesting world to say the least. So I think I'll wrap it up with that. Again, just want to thank you all for joining me. I wish you all a wonderful third quarter moon next week, and bye for now.